Well, isn't this exciting? The Happiness Is Pod with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison, and this is going to be a heap of fun. Do we have two spectacular guests for you? Backstage, I've got Sean from Fill Your Boots pressing the buttons and keeping things right, and we are buzzing for what is going to happen. The pod is here. You can watch on YouTube and you can listen in all those places that you get your podcasts. We are going to talk about life and loves and passions and all sorts of other stuff, but we are happy. We are going to talk about the things that get us going and the things we look forward to and the things that have shaped who we are and what we do just now. And I have two spectacular ladies as guests today. One was at London 2012 in front of that packed stadium and all of those people watching at home, and I was one of them. I loved it, and I have never been so excited to speak to a London Olympian than I am today. And the other one, the other lady, is somebody I've known for a very, very long time and have loved watching her journey to where she has arrived at today. One I've never really met, one I've known for a very long time, and I think they are going to get on swimmingly. So without any further ado, please welcome my spectacular guest, the one and only Mel Nicholls, and the unique and always late Rhona Lloyd. Welcome. How are you?
What an intro. Yeah, what an intro. What do we say? It's good to be here.
Well, I am so happy that you showed up. And Rhona, it was nice of you to arrive eventually, so thank you.
Better late than never.
The late Rhona Lloyd. So, Rhona, how are things with you just now? You are one busy lady who always manages to find things to fill her time.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky that's the case, especially at the moment. Like for me, I'm still training, I'm still working, like I'm still doing bits with my podcast. So I actually I've been as busy as ever, which is, I'm really fortunate to be in that position.
And we've got a future guest for you here. You got to get Mel Nicholls on your podcast.
For sure.
After the end of this.
maybe this is a trial, maybe not. And Mel, what I know what you've been up to, because you've been involved in some of the stuff I've been involved in recently. But what are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, so the last 5 weeks we've been full on Doddy Aid, haven't we? Which has been incredible. This week has seemed really quiet. So like, where's the banter? Where was everyone shouting about the miles? Where's the snoods? But it's nice to see people still going on with that and still putting in the effort. So I've been, really picking up my training. Obviously been having to stay at home, so just been focusing on training. A lot of online learning. So passed a couple of exams the last week, which was kind of good. So, you can still learn no matter what.
Yeah, still learn. Now, the two of you have both done silly things recently that have made me laugh on social media. Rhona, you've started to play an instrument.
So I'd say play an instrument isn't where we're at the moment. I've attempted to start learning the bagpipes, which starts with the chanter, and I hope that I get better, because right now I'd say I'm pretty terrible, and I think my flatmates definitely hope that I get better. But no, I've been doing online lessons, and that's another thing that's just filled my time at the moment. But I'm absolutely loving it. I'm just, I just can't keep time. Basically, that seems to be my issue. I'd say I'm below average. So we'll see what happens there. I was on a Zoom lesson last night, and they were doing Auld Lang Syne, and the teacher was like, "You do know the tune, don't you?"
That's never a good sign.
I know. So we'll see what happens there.
So
why so hard to play the bagpipes?
So hard.
Exactly. Why the bagpipes?
I think it's something that I've always wanted to learn, and but just never actually made any effort to do it. So I guess I was like, now's the time. And I think it is the right time to start something new and ridiculous. So I'm enjoying it.
You can play the guitar though, can't you?
Yeah, I've done the guitar when I was younger, and then take a ukulele on camp with us. But I've never done a instrument that you have to blow into before. That's been a whole new challenge.
Is that what they're known as, instruments that you blow?
I'd say woodwind, but I don't think it is.
Oh,
I don't know. Whatever I'm doing.
I love it. You must be the least popular of your flatmates. When you said I'm going to do the bagpipes, what did they say?
They've set me I'm not allowed to practice between certain hours, and they're all watching Game of Thrones at the moment. So basically, when they do that, that's my time to like go upstairs and practice when no one can hear me.
Nice. And Mel, you've moved outside for some of your recovery.
Yeah, well, it always was. With everything things being closed down, I sort of, a few months ago started swimming more in the lake. Obviously, when the ice came, then doing a bit of ice swimming, which was amazing. But now I can't get to the lake, so I've built my own mini lake in my garden. So after the sort of big stints on the bike, then I strip naked when it's dark. When it's not dark, then I do put some clothes on and dunk in the garden. Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. Like to sit there and to look at the stars in the pool of ice. It's wonderful. It clears your head and it recovers your muscles. So I thoroughly recommend it. It's great fun.
The two of you must have all the neighbours talking. Rhona, they must hate you with the bagpipes, and Mel, they must be that crazy lady next door's outside naked again.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Brilliant. I absolutely love it. Right, Rhona, the bagpipes, is there a plan for when you play the bagpipes?
Like, I think with a big motivation is like with rugby, we go to a lot of cool places, and obviously that's just something very Scottish that you can take places. But at the rate I'm going, it's not going to be a this season thing at all. It's a future thing. But no, we'll see. I'm loving it. But yeah, definitely, I'm like quite passionate about being Scottish and that being part of our like team identity. So if I do learn to play, if we get there, then I can definitely take that with me. And then I'll have my Scotland teammates complaining about me as well as my flatmates.
I have to admit, having played in New Zealand, Hong Kong, America, whenever I went away, and of course you'd put the kilt on as soon as you got a chance, and everybody would go, "Oh my God, you're Scottish!" And then the next question they would ask is, "Can you play the bagpipes?" And when you said no, you could always see them just a little bit sad. So yeah, I get it. I totally get it. That'll be awesome. That'll be so cool. Now, Rhona, I've known you since you were primary 7. So I've known you since you were 10 or 11 years old. And I could say a couple of things. One, I could say you have changed, but then in other ways, you are still absolutely that wee dafty that I first saw that asked a question in front of a room full of adults, teachers, head teacher, to get clarification on something that I had just presented to everybody. No one else in the room had a question apart from this wee lass who went, "Can I ask a question?" What has brought you to this point here that you find yourself in?
Like school, well, you'll know from that. Like I had a really good time, but like did have a bit of a hard time in terms of didn't go to a school where I think being a bit different was like celebrated among the students. It definitely was among the PE department. You guys looked after me, but yeah, like just absolutely sports mad in school. Like did everything. Like to be honest, probably didn't embrace playing rugby as much as I should have, just because I was a bit embarrassed about it. Like as you know, I was like kind of the only girl in the school that played and was getting a fair bit of stick about it. And it was funny because rugby was like what I did that made me happy, but then it was also like, I guess, something that was making me unhappy in school, like I was going to say backlash, but that makes it sound quite serious. But yeah, anyway, I was like, as you know, I was like basketball on a Monday, like athletics on a Tuesday, rugby on a Wednesday, and probably went like that until I was about 16, 17, and then rugby got a bit more serious, and that's what I was doing every day. But like looking back, like doing that completely kept me out of trouble, because like every day after school, I mean, I caused my own trouble, but every day after school I was at a sports club or yeah, kept me busy. And then went to Edinburgh University. Like a big motivation of that was because of the rugby program there, and I like just loved playing the game. And it was probably once I went to uni and after watching like the 2016 Olympics, I think for me that was when like that dream became like really real. And yeah, now it's brought me on to Loughborough. Rugby's basically dictated all my life decisions, but in like a very, very positive way.
Yeah, I kind of know that feeling, but not with the ambition of being at an Olympics, unfortunately. Mel, you've been to an Olympics.
Ooh, I have, yeah.
How like that's an experience. Rhona is dreaming of that experience, and hopefully, if life allows, that will happen. If I go to Olympics, as I did at London 2012, but I was in the stand watching, what's that like as an athlete, being at the biggest jamboree for sport ever?
It's just amazing. I remember, well, for London, so for me, I got into athletics and certainly, I suppose, mainstream sport after obviously life-changing strokes. So it was quite late for me to come into that sort of area of sport and that kind of world. It was a 15-month whirlwind from sort of starting wheelchair racing, which was what I was doing, track racing at the games, to being selected. So that was my first international. My first time representing GB was at the London 2012, which is a bit crazy, but amazing. And I just remember every day that I was there, whether it was that I was competing or whether I was supporting friends or whether we were just walking to the huge food hall, it was like, this is amazing. This is the best day of my life. And the next day, no, this is the best day of my life. It's just absolutely amazing. It was like a dream. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, you'd never forget your games.
And people have spoken about the home games. Now, I can remember when the Commonwealth Games were at Meadowbank Stadium, which has now been demolished in Edinburgh, and they're building what I hope is going to be something really, really cool. But I went as a really young kid to the Commonwealth Games, not really understanding what it was. But later on in life, a guy who was involved at my rugby club, a guy called Ken Mackay, his only international event was the Commonwealth Games at Meadowbank, and he's from Dundee. And I always sensed a bit of disappointment in his voice that was where his big event was. It had been in Auckland, I think, or it was in Auckland 4 years later, but he got to go to Meadowbank. But London was just, it's still the one I think people measure the Olympics against, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, at the Paralympics, we were just after the Olympics, and we're British, aren't we? And nobody expected it to be a success at all. We had a warm-up event a few months before the games, and obviously we turned out to race, to go through the motions, and no one came to support, which is what we expected, and that's what we expected for the main games as well. And I remember, I think for the Olympics, people were kind of shocked, weren't they, how well it went. So then people that had missed out on tickets for the Olympics all wanted to come to the Paralympics. And the Paralympics, I think, was even more sold out. The whole park was sold out, let alone getting tickets for actually for events. To have that home games, I'm so lucky that I was able to go to a home games. Just amazing. And it just put sport, particularly for Britain, I think, that kind of level, that just back on the map, didn't it? And for kids, I remember some of my greatest memories are being on the track after my races and just seeing the kids' faces, the magic in their eyes, and these big foam hands, and everyone wanted high fives, and like, that's why we're here. This is why we do this. Yeah.
And we all become experts. We become experts in everything, and you just get totally absorbed in sports that you've got no clue on. And especially as a PE teacher, like I was in charge of everything. Rhona, what do you think an Olympics looks like, feels like? What is it that's driving you towards that? I was telling Mel last night when I spoke to her on the phone that you lied about your height to go to a selection because you wanted to be like Lizzie Arnold, remember?
Yeah. That is true. Obviously didn't get away with that lie for too long when they seen me. But I think the thing with the Olympics or the Paralympics is that is people understand what a big deal that is. Like, that's something that's so tangible. Like, even conversations with working and being an athlete, especially in women's sport, you have so many conversations with work about, I need to get away for this game or that game, and sometimes I don't think they get it. Whereas when you say the Olympics or the Paralympics, people can just immediately associate with that being the pinnacle of your sport and what an achievement that is. So I think that's motivation, isn't it? You can say that you have been at the top of your game.
And I think, like you say, because it brings everyone together, doesn't it? There's a sport for everybody. Everybody's an expert at one sport, one sport, or whatever it is. So I think it just brings everyone, which is really good.
Mel, did you watch the rugby sevens at Rio? Did you pay any attention to the sevens?
Rio, yeah, unfortunately not, only because we were away on holding camp before our games, and then during our own games I wasn't well, so I was locked in quarantine. So yeah, I don't have great memories of Rio, of anything really, other than the four walls of my room.
Oh, because the sevens was really early. It was at the very beginning, and it wasn't the only show on TV, but I think it grabbed a heap of people. Rhona, you must have been watching it just drooling, were you?
So Rio, basically, when Rio Olympics happened, I just had a shoulder operation, so I couldn't sleep. So I honestly don't think there was anybody in Britain that watched more of the Rio Olympics than I did, because with the time difference, I was like up all night, like watching the most niche sports. But yeah, for me, that was like, obviously it was the first games that rugby sevens had been at. So yeah, it was amazing, and I think that totally changed the game of sevens. Like, it's now just such a massive spectator sport.
And the women's sevens, if MD knows women's rugby, they weren't surprised by the standard. But I think a lot of people who are naive to it and still compare men's sport to women's sport and want them to be the same, they were really surprised by it. But you got people like Charlotte Caslick in Australia, who, she is just off the planet, isn't she? She is awesome.
Oh, 100%. Like, there's so many phenomenal players around the world, and yeah, I think the Olympics is where they're showcased across all sports.
Yeah, and the role models, Mel, looking back to you being at school, who did you look at as someone that made you think, I can do that?
For me, for sport, when I was at school, it was outside adventure sport. It was horses were a big part of my life for many years, until about 2011. So for me and my friends always had like the event riders posters on inside of our lockers and things like that. So they were kind of our role models. And we'd go to badminton and race at the end of cross country course, waiting for autographs, they go off the horse and things. And also riding my bike. But again, it was just kind of about going out with friends and just riding and not knowing where we're going and just going off on a bit of an adventure. So the sport, I didn't actually, my school, I suppose, wasn't that sporty. Didn't really get on with my PE teacher, which never helps. I kind of wanted to like things like netball, but I didn't really understand it. And I was made to feel a bit stupid. So that sort of puts you off a bit. Then when I left school, I played netball with young farmers, which I loved because it was such a great environment. So actually doing like, netball, hockey, tug of war, those sort of things was great, because maybe it was the stuff that came after sports or something. But that's kind of where I think it was, you've got to enjoy what you do, haven't you? You've got to have fun and be around the right people, and that makes a huge difference. So maybe school wasn't the right environment for sport, but outside of school, then there certainly were a load of great role models.
Having umpired young farmers hockey, I hate to think what young farmers netball was like, because the hockey was just a riot. It was just lawless. It was like they'd been let out for the day and just started hacking each other to pieces with weapons. So I hate to think what netball, a non-contact sport, was like with young farmers. That must have toughened you up.
I seem to remember hockey was like that at school. That's the only thing I did love, actually, was hockey, because it was a time to just get and just smash it across the AstroTurf. I think netball, I remember it being quite well behaved, really.
No, I'm not having that.
In comparison.
Both of you have excelled in certain sports, but Rhona, because I've known you for so long, and you've already mentioned you were doing that on that night, you were also at things like cadets, and you were in the panto, you danced at one point, which you hate me bringing up. You played music, you filled your time. Mel, you saying things like, I got on my bike and we didn't know where we were going. That gives me the idea, like you said, you loved what you were doing. You were happy just to see what happens. So I find that's not the norm. Not all kids are like that. Rhona, not all kids are filling their time voluntarily. Your folks weren't driving you to all those things. You were going to those things off your own bat, and they were working, and they had their other commitments. Mel, you getting on your bike and disappearing for what was probably hours. You must have loved what you were doing. Now, something I love to talk to kids I teach and to players and pretty much anybody that will listen to me for long enough is following a passion. So, Rhona, rugby's the thing that you have ended up being passionate about. If you'd listened to your PE teacher, you would never have followed rugby, because he told you not to be so silly because there was no future in it, and tried to push you into athletics. But what is it about sport? What is it about life? The two of you strike me as people who just love life, being involved, achieving things, being with others, sharing experiences, making memories. So why is that not the norm, Rhona? Why are you a bit of an outlier?
Oh, like for me, it was just like loved competing. Like I'm so competitive, so loved that. Like loved running around, and to me in school, especially, like you're like literally 2 hours a week. We could just run around the gym hall. Like that's such a treat when you got to do that in school. So I think that was kind of like PE in school was definitely about like stemming to my love of sport, and then now I'm just somebody that like with the bagpipes, just if I have a spare hour, I always fill it, which is actually like such a bad trait, and I always say that I need to relax more, and then I'll get a free afternoon and find something to do. But like I think the more things you're passionate about, the more exciting your life is, and like the more opportunities you have to go places. And like rugby's taken me to like Hong Kong and South Africa and places that I just like absolutely would not have gone to otherwise. Like as a kid, we went on family holidays to Benidorm, so it's definitely opened up my horizons a little bit.
And the best bit about all of that is somebody else is paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mel, you fill your time. You are so busy. Rhona mentioned there about relaxing. Now, I'm not really somebody who is very good at relaxing in the way of I'm going to do nothing. Relaxing to me is speaking to people like you. Believe it or not, this is me relaxed, although I'm high as a kite and very excited to speak to two great people that I think the sun shines from their hind parts. But you're not good at relaxing in that way, but you probably are relaxed when you're involved in something.
Yeah, I love doing stuff. It was like you're saying about life. Life is for living, isn't it? It's fulfilling. It's for having all those experiences. When I was younger, when I was at school, I remember sort of thinking and saying that I bet everybody could, and it probably is really good at some sport, but you don't know because you don't get a chance to try it. So I just love the idea of just trying everything. You might not be good, you might not like it, but you've got to try it. When I was younger, I was also a dancer. So I remember sort of, if I want something, whether I was a kid or whether it's now, if I want something, if I want to go and try something, I will find a way to make it happen. So I wanted to go to dance lessons. I wanted to have a horse, and I wasn't allowed. And obviously when I was younger, until I could sort of pay for it myself. So I'd ride around on my bike around the countryside where I lived and leave notes on loads of gates and say, that I've got horse in the fields. Can I come and ride your horse in exchange for mucking out or whatever? And the horses I got to ride before and after school, they were some proper crazy ones, but it taught me to be a great rider, taught me to respect that side and to work for it. And I think, you've got to love what you do, but you've just got to get out there and just chase it and just get after it. And it doesn't matter whether you're a youngster or whether you're older. It's the same philosophy, isn't it? You just got to make the most of it because you only get one chance.
I love it, but now what I'm thinking is, right, where's this coming from? Rhona, you're saying you're competitive, you're passionate. Mel, you determined, I'm going to make it happen. Where's that coming from? Where have you found that from? Is that because, Rhona, is that because you've got a big brother and you wanted to always beat him? Mel, is that because you wanted to see how far you could go and test yourself physically? Where the two of you have got unbelievable drive, and it doesn't strike me that you're cutting people down or you're sort of trying to get above anybody else. I think you're bringing people with you, with your personalities and with the things you're achieving and the way you go about things. Where have you come from with that? Are you born with it? I totally think not. I'm more of a nurture than a nature believer. But also, why have we not got more people doing this stuff that you two are doing? Rhona, what's your thought?
It was definitely not beating Callum because he's crap. So that didn't actually take much training. No, when I was in primary school, I had Per's disease in my hip, so didn't do any sport. Couldn't walk to school for the first couple of years and stuff. So I think once I could run and once I could get involved in sport, I think from then I just that was probably the end of primary school. Then I just didn't stop. So I think it was just just raw passion for sport and being active, which I'm pretty lucky that I developed when I was young.
The school you went to, though, Rhona, I mean, I taught it. The school you arrived at was falling to pieces. The gym hall, we sometimes had to close because of the leak in the roof, and the floor would warp to about 3 foot in the air. It wasn't exactly a theatre of dreams, was it?
No, you honestly don't know that when you're in school. Like, I remember when, like, the year that I left school, there was like a survey that came out ranking all the schools in Scotland and being like, was that not a good school? So, oh no, but that didn't matter. One of the things I remember from the old test is from the old school. Sorry, we moved into the new Tynecastle building after first year, so everybody just says the old and the new one. But you had us doing the Cooper test, so the 12-minute test, like running around the playground, and I remember the boys like lying about their like finishing a lap before they were meant to, and just being like absolutely seething. And that's about all the memories I've got from that building.
Yeah, Rona was determined to the point where I think, did you not get banned from playing basketball when you were in the last year at school?
Oh yeah, that's still a soft spot. No, I wasn't allowed to play with the boys' team. Like, yeah,
That was it.
we need another 35 minutes to talk about my thoughts and feelings on that one.
Mel, you're like, what is the environment important, or is it the people around you?
I think it's, a few aspects in that. I think for me, I love learning new things. I am competitive. Well, I think I need to be, but I am. But I think I'm more competitive with myself. You know, like say, yes, when you're in a race, you have to, the idea is to win. The idea is to beat other people. But for me, it's a race with myself. And I think that's why it's pushing me more towards going back to sort of the adventure sports things and going to ultra endurance and looking at breaking records and kind of new ground rather than being, you know, head to head on a racetrack. And so I've always kind of to want to better myself. And I think there's certainly an element of when I was younger, people telling me, you can't do that. Yeah. And I'm just stubborn. And I'm like, watch me. So I think,
why were people telling you can't do it?
I think, I don't know. I suppose it's just having that. Maybe it's because themselves haven't done it or haven't been able to, haven't wanted to, haven't tried it, haven't perhaps been brave enough to go after things. So it's easier to say, you know, well, you can't do that because I wouldn't think of doing that. And when I was at school, you know, I was always one sort of picked last because no one would expect me to be any good, and I was quiet and sort of middle ground. So I just kind of let them think that, and I didn't sort of shout up and say, well, let me show you. So maybe just as the years have gone by, I've been a bit more, actually, no, I can do this, or I'm going to try. So let's see what's going to happen, maybe.
And aren't adults the most annoying? It's that we adult, and I find myself doing it as a parent sometimes, projecting onto my girls by telling them things they can and can't do, whereas actually they think they can run and dance and skip and sing, and so why tell them otherwise? I remember being at my youngest, this was a few years ago, and coming out of their Christmas concert in, I think it was something like primary 1, and I said to the deputy head teacher who was holding the door open for all the parents to leave at the time, and I said to her, isn't it amazing that every single one of those kids thinks they can sing? Because they all stood and gave the best performance of their life. And some of them had voices you would listen to, and some of them had voices you didn't really want to listen to, but they all believed they could sing. Yeah. But if you'd asked all the adults leaving, could they sing? At least 50% of them were going to say, oh no, I can't sing. But we can all sing. We can all sing. We can all play netball. We can all, some of us are not going to go to the Olympics and be internationals, but we can all play. But adults are too quick to tell kids especially what they can't do. And that's, I still hear people say, oh yeah, my teacher said I couldn't, so I decided I was determined I was going to show them. I can't believe teachers are still saying stuff like that. It just blows my mind. Rhona, you showed similar determination. You would, if somebody told you couldn't do it, you would have been like, yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah, I think that's the like competitive side of it for sure. But you are totally right. Like as adults, we definitely are in, or maybe it's not being as open to trying new things. Like I've seen with the, I guess because we spoke about the Doddy Gump Challenge earlier, like my dad got involved in it and has gone from not doing a lot to like doing absolutely loads in the space of 6 weeks, and that's just because he wants to support Doddy Weir and like thing like that's really inspiring in that way. Like something as simple as an online like challenge for a charity that he's passionate about and a rugby player that he's passionate about. Oh, like get him out of the house every day.
And isn't it brilliant that the thing I hope or one of the things I think lockdown's going to have some positives. I'm certain lockdown's going to have some positives. Mel, you were you were such a role model during the whole Doddy Aid thing, and your enthusiasm was just fantastic, and your nighttime baths outside, you absolute maddie. But one of the things I hope people have realised is how great it is just to be outside. Whether you're running, walking, cycling, doesn't matter, just being outside. And although we can't be together, that feeling of being part of a team was really what drove it beyond £1 million, beyond the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles that people did. And like Rhona's saying, her old man, who makes Rhona look sane, he is off his chump. But how many 100 miles has he done, Rhona? Maybe, has he done a couple of 100 miles maybe?
Yeah, he did 150.
150 miles, which he wouldn't have done if it hadn't been for that situation. And if life had been normal, he wouldn't have done that. So, Mel, your motto, which I love, and Rhona's maybe never heard, and she's going to hear it for the first time when I say this, but Mel's motto is dream big, live an adventure. Now, that's the kind of thing, if you're going to get a tattoo, like, get that. Like, that is so cool. What's your hope, Mel, looking into your crystal ball for the future out of this situation? What are you hoping we get from it?
Well, sort of going back to what you were saying about the environment as well, that is so important, isn't it? And having people, if you have enough people tell you can't do something, most people are going to go, okay, then. You have got the rogue ones around us that we say, do you know what? Yes, watch me, we're going to do this. But not everybody is going to do that. Yeah. So to have that supportive environment. So with Doddy Aid, the fact that, we're out there, we're on social media kind of sharing what we're doing, and then it's growing and growing, and so hundreds and thousands of people showing what they're doing, and then more people getting involved. And it's just that kind of supportive community that, yes, we're in lockdown, and yes, we're all on our own, but we're not on our own at all. Everyone was so together. So keeping that going and sharing what you're doing, don't put sort of rose tinted glasses on it. Be honest, be authentic. Yes, show the tough times as well as the great times, because I think people really understand that. There's no point showing or maybe making up sort of that everything's great all the time and you're doing so well and you're smashing out these goals and you're winning this, winning that, because not everybody can relate to that, and that's also going to put people off. So just being human and supporting and being open to people if they want to ask questions or got any queries about their own sort of stuff, and just being sharing, motivating, supporting, encouraging, getting people perhaps talk about getting outside. That some people will face more barriers than others. So for me, looking at the disability side, then I'll share how I get out on my adventure crutches and where I go, and whether it's any kind of wheelchair accessible walks or hand cycling stuff or whatever it is, whatever your area is, then just getting out there and helping people to learn and to educate.
And we can belittle achievements. So dreaming big, Rhona wants to go to the Olympics to play sevens. That is Rhona's dream big. But your old man, Rhona, his dream big was, I'm going to walk 150 miles in a month. And it's like you said, Mel, it's being human. Let's celebrate what is each other's dream big. And social media, so maybe, gee whiz, this is maybe a whole other thing, but social media for me in December was a pretty dark place. There was so much, I don't know why, I don't know if it was lockdown, I don't know if it was because you live in a country that's dark 23 hours a day, but there was so much negativity on social media. And I started a thing through Happiness Egg-Shaped called Join the Pack to try and bring together some similar people and pages and organizations to try and promote, because I feel like together we're stronger than maybe we're as individuals. And now, having witnessed Doddy Aid, the social media swell of positivity has just blown people away. And I think we've probably built relationships that are different because of social media. Rhona, you're on social media, you have your own podcast, you have Rhona and the Whales, you've got all sorts of other stuff going on. There's a brilliant article about you on the BBC, which has been shared. And so you are out there, you are on social media. What positivity can you see projecting out of this into the future?
So with the Doddy Gump, myself and Helen Nelson, who I live with, basically our snoods only arrived like 4 days ago. So we just spent the whole month.
Don't get on the snoods again.
Like seeing pictures of snoods and being angry that like we're like, where's ours? I think social media is like, I think with social media you can choose who you follow. So if somebody's always tweeting rubbish, you can mute them, which I think people don't always realise. Like Donald Trump leaving Twitter, I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But also social media, you can connect with people, and I think you've seen that massively through Happiness is Egg Shaped, and like I definitely have through my podcast, and you like can form relationships with like-minded people that you otherwise wouldn't meet. Like I think it does have it has so much opportunity for it to be like a really positive influence on your life. And yes, I think it's just having that control over who you follow and like being aware of what impact it has on your mood.
Yeah, I tell boys this when I'm teaching about social media and about internet. I've blocked 3 people. I blocked Donald Trump, I blocked Piers Morgan, and I blocked Katie Hopkins. Now, none of the 3 of them give a rat's ass that Bruce Aitchison has blocked them, but it just made my life happier not seeing those 3 tweeting stuff that just didn't even really wind me up. I just didn't need it in my life. I didn't need to know what hate they were trying to stir up or who they'd made a fool of that morning or what it was. Mel, your social media is just like it's like a ray of sunshine. And your website is awesome. Your like Dream Big, Live an Adventure. Like I just love it. You're obviously projecting that out. What do you get back from that?
Like you were saying as well, social media, it has its place, doesn't it? And there's some days that I just switch off to it because I know that perhaps even actually I might be feeling okay, but then you just see all this rubbish comes through and you're like, do you know what? I don't need to read that. I'm going to choose not to, and I'll put my phone away and I'll get outside and I'll go and climb a hill or something. But others,
I'll go and find a hill.
in a river or something. Makes me feel better. But then other days, it's great, and it has got a real positive place as well. And you've got to be strict. You've got to choose who you're following, who you're interacting with, and if people are going to try and wind you up, well, they're just at the other side of a phone or keyboard or whatever, and just ignore it. I know it's easier said than done, but you've got to try and do that. So I try and put the positivity into social media because we definitely all need more of that. And it is true. It is authentic. I love to be that person and to share that positivity and to do those stupid, crazy things because it makes me feel good. And my friends say it makes them feel good. So that makes me even feeling even happier.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. And I know that that's authentic because I've got to know you over the last month and it's been fantastic. Someone said to me about 2 years ago that they thought my social media was too positive. And I said to them, I don't really understand what you mean by that. And they said, I think sometimes people would like to see that not everything is perfect. And I said, I find that a bit naive. How on earth? Like, I have the same issues everybody else has. But why would I share that? So I was asked to share something about my mental health during the first lockdown. And I wrote this post and I shared it. And there was 2 silly things in it. One was about being in Louise Redknapp's kitchen, because at that time she was posting a lot of things in her kitchen. But there was also that when things are rough, there's always Maryland cookies. So because I'm a bit partial to 2 packets of Maryland cookies a day. So about a week later, it was my birthday. My next door neighbour baked me a cake, a Maryland cookies cake, and it had Maryland cookies all over it. And someone I work with bought the most enormous double pack of Maryland cookies I've ever seen. It was like a foot long of Maryland cookies, double pack, and gave me those as a present. And I got messages, I got private messages, I got public things, I got people saying thank you for it. And one guy who I coached at rugby almost 10 years ago sent me a message completely out of the blue on WhatsApp just saying thank you. And I'll get a wee goosebump on the back of my neck here. It was quite an interesting thing because I'd never thought that before. I'd never thought how important that was before. But there are people, you are both unique, strong, unbelievable role models. And for me, for everyone, but for me. And that's why I've asked you to be part of this, because I knew I was going to love speaking to you. Do you think showing some vulnerability is worth the trade-off of maybe people thinking there's something wrong or something deeper? Do you think is it important to show vulnerability, Rhona?
It's interesting what you're saying about social media, because just so Joe Brown, who's somebody that I used to live with, I hadn't spoken to her in a while, so I messaged her the other day being like, hope you're good, blah, blah, blah. And she replied saying, you look really happy on social media. I hope you are. And I was like, what? Like, is that what people think now when they see social media posts? Like, like they're like, oh, I hope that this is real.
Well, not everybody, Rhona. Not everybody has a rug with their picture on it. Mel, you got to go on Rhona's social media because she's sponsored by a carpet company, and they made her a rug. How big is it, Rhona? It's
so
like 4 foot maybe.
Oh, like bigger. Like
is it bigger?
Well, it's bigger than me. Like the rug Rhona is bigger than real Rhona, but the sponsored by like a guy that makes carpets, and he was like, oh, I've printed you on a doormat, can I send you it? So I thought like that'll be funny. Like I'm thinking it would be like a welcome doormat that arrived, and now it's like the centerpiece of our living room.
It is honestly, Mel. This thing is awesome. It's such a brilliant picture of Rhona as well. It's such a good picture, and it just cracks me up. So, but social media has you've both experienced opportunities because of social media, surely.
Yeah, like I think connected with loads of people, and it has given me a lot. But as you say, like I probably amn't somebody that posts the negative side of what's going on, which like maybe I should. I think in that time I just wouldn't post. Like thinking back to actually when I had my last shoulder operation, like had an absolute time of it, like was meant to be out for 4 months and was out for 10 months. Like it was just way harder than it should have been, and I'd never posted about that, or like, and I was like so embarrassed at like how bad my shoulder was. Like I didn't take any videos and stuff, and now I kind of wish that, not necessarily posted about it, but I wish I had more that I could look back at and be like, kind of reflect on how far it's come. So I think, I don't know, Mel, I'm not sure if you're somebody that posts kind of is more honest on social media.
I definitely find it hard to put the sort of the tough times out. Yeah, my friends know that, when I go quiet on social media, that's when I'm having a tougher time. So then they check on me, but like, we haven't heard from you for 12 hours. They must be wrong. But actually, I think it is important, and particularly if there's something that's going on, or if there's a wider issue, then I think that I can help other people. Then I will try and do that, because I think that's really important. So yeah, I think it is important to show that vulnerability, because like I said before, we're all human, and we're all having, especially at the minute, ups and downs, like every hour, and we can help each other, we can work together and support each other, and like I said, we're stronger together. So actually, by sharing that and by putting it out there, I feel for me, it kind of feels like I'm taking down that barrier, which is hard, and people are wonderful, and people are messaging, and they know, they see when there's tougher times, and that's quite hard, because you kind of taken that brave face off a little bit, but I do think it's important, and I think I certainly know I need to perhaps do more of it in life in general, as well as social media. I think it's a good thing, but it's a tough thing.
Do you both realize the impact that you have? I'm not going to say famous, but you're both well known, respected, you've achieved, you've experienced success. Do you realize the impact that you have on someone maybe that you've never met, Rhona? Do you get that there's maybe somebody watching you thinking, that's somebody I aspire to be like?
I think only when, like maybe a couple of years ago, like in recent times, I got a message from, it was a girl that if I said, I think it'd be another Tynecastle people that you'd be really fond of, like saying that, like messaged me, saying that like it was really cool seeing somebody playing rugby, and it's made her start playing rugby. And I think that was the first time that I was like, oh, what, like, even though I've got a very small following on social media, actually there are people that kind of, I mean, if that's enough to make somebody start playing rugby. And she said that she was going to uni to do physics, and that was like a male dominated environment, and we had like this really good conversation about it. And that was kind of what inspired me to start doing the podcast, because I was kind of like, I've got this really like small platform from playing rugby, and I just want to use it like to get more girls in sport and to kind of break down some of those barriers. Because I do think in in high school things can, like how people perceive you could be a barrier to like a girl playing rugby or studying physics or whatever it is. And it's obviously, as soon as you leave high school, you realise how ridiculous that is.
Yeah, I can remember that conversation like it was yesterday, Rhona, when you were studying in the PE department, and I put that in the article I wrote about you, which is now 5 years old, which just blows my mind. But I can remember saying to you, there's going to be a time when you're far away from this place and you're going to realise how minor this thing is. So it's amazing to see the journey that you've gone on, folks. I'm now way over time. I could keep going, but firstly, both thank you, because you were both quick to say yes, and I'm absolutely delighted that I got you both together on the same screen, because, as I said earlier, you both absolute rays of sunshine, and I think you're fantastic role models, and I admire you both hugely. But before I let you go, I need you to finish off. The only thing I told you to prepare was this.
So prepare this. Sorry.
Rhona, finish the sentence. Happiness is.
I think happiness is like doing what you're passionate about.
Awesome. Mel, happiness is.
Happiness is smiling so hard that your cheeks hurt, laughing so hard that your belly hurts, and having a story to share at the end of it.
Oh, yes. Rhona and Mel, I can say thank you, but it doesn't even come close. But thank you so much, and I really hope I get to see you both very, very soon somewhere where we can do all those things. Thank you very much, Mel Nicholls and Rhona Lloyd.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, as usual, the man who most people find it difficult to have a 10-minute conversation with has run way over time. I have loved speaking to Rhona Lloyd, who I've known for a very long time. I know her family. I've taken a huge amount of pride in watching her journey and where she's got to. Mel Nicholls is new to me. I've only known Mel for about a month. We've never met, but we've done things like this over the screen, and we've spoken to each other on the phone. And every time I speak to her, I leave in a better place than I was before. Those two people are role models, no matter their sex, no matter their achievements, no matter the way they live their life, the passion that they show, and the humble, polite, well-mannered, respectful personalities they have make them very warm and people that are worth speaking to. And I hope to speak to them again, maybe on here, but I really hope I get to spend some time with them in person. Thank you very much to everybody who has helped to contribute, to Sean from Fill Your Boots Backstage, Pushing the Buttons, to Rugby Store, to Raging Bull, and to everybody else who has taken part. I am absolutely delighted to have the Happinesses podcast. My name is Bruce Aitchison, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you very, very soon. You can catch the podcast on all the normal places, on Apple, on Spotify, on Acast, and you'll be able to watch on social media and YouTube. But for now, my name is Bruce Aitchison, and my happiness is egg-shaped.